I'll tell you this much. Kingdom have shown gore, and they have not been shy on the censors. After all, it was a different time, and in different times there were different measures. As questionable as it is, as I have always said before, in this manga it's usually difficult to know what is right and wrong because, after all, war is war. However, there is some lines that actually feels even depraved, even by some standards. And now, for the first time ever, for real, we are introduced to the Zhao King. Hi, for those who are watching, it's the Angry Enemy fan, the Despair Reviewer, bringing you Kingdom Chapter 503. For the first time ever, we meet the King of Zhao, King Tojo. All hints have been given to the man that the man is mentally twisted or extremely, well, creepy. After all, he was perfectly willing to sacrifice Riboku, a guy who at that time had contributed in slaying Oki, if he only could get back a certain person that was very important to the king. Also, he took away Rempa, a guy who not only were one of the three heavens, only because Rempa didn't like the king. And Rempa himself described the king as a pig. And now, for the first time, we see who the king really is. And let me tell you, I'm almost throwing up. I mean, there were some extremely great hints that the king was homosexual. And before you give the hate comments, now that can't be helped. But now it turns out that the king is not only homosexual. No, he is a depraved homosexual pedophile. Because we are introduced to the king of Zhao in a bath filled with what I presume is young boys. Oh, well, don't get me wrong, if it was young girls, even that would have been questionable, but at least that would have been girls. But young boys? That king is really depraved. That was actually gross, even by Kingdom standards. I'll tell you what, I've seen gore, I've seen murder, I've seen a lot of things in the Kingdom manga. But that, surprisingly, well, maybe not so surprisingly, but that actually took the cake. It also reveals that the king is extremely selfish. Apparently Kantan has a elite force that he refuses to immobilize because they're here to protect the king. Meaning that the Shin is actually intended to kill Kantan, which is the main place and where the king lives. Which is actually, I think, this is the arc where the king will die. We're also introduced to a Zhao officer, also a fat pig, who actually seems to be kind of immune to the king's pedophilia. I mean, we see an old man who is actually extremely nervous about all this, but I think he's also nervous because he's trying to reason with the king, while at the same time being disgusted by the king's pedophilia. The fat Zhao official's name is Kaokai, and it's clear that Kaokai and the other officers of Zhao do not exactly get along. Maybe because they don't exactly in themselves approve of the Zhao King, but they do. I mean, you know what I mean. Actually, I once thought something. Don't get me wrong, I don't think this is actually true, but I was actually a little bit wondering, is it very possible that the Zhao is actually more loyal to Riboku than they are to the king? I mean, why did I think that? Well, you all remember when Riboku went to Chin for the first time after having slayed Oki. The fact of how his vessels reacted almost made me think that that one of the older officers was going to say, the vessels are more loyal to you than to the king. But Riboku is a man of honor. Well, when I mean like that, he is a man of honor in his own way. But as I said in many reviews, I sometimes feel Riboku is a bit of a liar. And it's very clear, I think, that all of these officers of Riboku would follow Riboku to the death, not the Zhao King. Either way, they're rushing ahead, and it's a race against time. As the Zhao defense, there are still some Zhao defenses there. So, and it's all a race against time on who reaches Retsubi, the town, first. So China is also moving at a very high pace, and surprisingly, the veterans of the Hishin units are actually falling behind, while the rookies are not. Well, the rookies surpassed the hellish training; the other guys didn't, and so they see they're getting closer and closer, but still have a long, long way. And so finally, they see a huge ass lake, which is the Yellow River, uh, and uh, and if they follow it, they will arrive at Retsubu. However, Asao cavalry has caught up to them, but Osen, being stone-faced as he always is, just tells them to do not slow down the advance. And so the first army of Qin China is actually splitting away. And the one who will take care of the Sao cavalry will be Kanki. So is this the plan? The plan to uh, sacrifice Shin China's different type of armies until the main army, which probably consists of Osen, maybe even the young commanders, will they reach that place? Actually, no. When I think about it, that should actually be impossible because, as I said before, there are elite armies in Kantan, Retsubi, and a lot of things more. So just them cannot be that easy. It's a risky plan, but who knows? They need to reach, but it's clear, even for the South perspective, that Shin China must reach the Kantan first. If they do, they will have not an overwhelming, but a greater, what's that word? Not difference. Damn, I dropped it. I dropped what I meant to say. But I was gonna say that they will have the upper hand a little bit if they reach the city first. Granted, I don't think it's gonna be that easy, but hey, when is things easy in Kingdom? And so, yeah, it's kind of ironic, isn't it? We have seen blood, gore. I mean, now I'm saying this for the third time, but we've seen blood, gore. I mean, even a naked guy sitting on top of a lot of corpses, which, by the way, also was kind of disturbing. People buried alive, people burned alive, and yes, so many depraved things in Kingdom. And yet, the things that disgusted me most was the king's extreme pedophilia fetish. Things are strange sometimes. But then again, that was actually, I mean, to have young boys already like that, no, that's not right. That's just not right. It's, and the same, but then again, no child, even if it was a young girl, should they be able to do that? But I say it again, and I say it before. It's a different time, and in different time, there were questionable things. But it was not questionable back then. So give me your thoughts if you have any.